I dare say many of us have ourselves, if not most of us or all of us, know others who have heard of the mention of aliens in the news, UFOs, right? Area 51, okay? I want to say I do believe in aliens. But to what extent? I want to start out with reading out of Ephesians 6, verses 11 to 12, and Mark brought this up. Put on the panoply of God, meaning the whole armor, to enable you to stand up to the stratagems of the adversary. For it's not ours to wrestle with blood and flesh, but with the sovereignties, with the authorities, with the world mights of this darkness, with the spiritual forces of wickedness among the celestials. Ooh. You were wrestling today. Now, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. What happens in the next verse? It became chaos. Okay. Started out good. Something happened. I believe this is where Satan was created. And we see the story of Satan interweaved with human history ever since. God refashions the earth in verse 3 onward. And in Genesis 3, we see Satan interacting with humans for the first time. What does he do? He disrupts the whole relationship between Adam and Eve. He disrupts God's plan, so it seems, at this point. Hence the fall. They're kicked out of Eden. Now, it's the aliens, the definition of aliens is a creature from a planet other than Earth. That's from the Cambridge Dictionary. Who's seen Star Wars? Star Trek? I mean, humans have always been fascinated by aliens and the technology, spaceships, okay? Now, I think what we see going on in the world around us is a reflection of what's going on, as Mark brought out, in the celestials. In Genesis 1, verse 2, earth became a chaos. Okay, it wasn't made that way to begin with. Initially, there was no sin. There was corruption on the earth and really in the whole cosmos. We look up in the cosmos and we think, oh, that's beautiful. It's a chaos out there. Yeah, it looks beautiful from a distance, but you get out there, there are stars, planets colliding, galaxies interfering with each other. Earth was pristine. It was God's footstool. This is the point from where he reigned. I have some notes I wrote down here. I can't see. All right, so everything that God had made was very good. Satan comes along and he disrupts. Now, let's look at Satan's job description. Has anybody ever thought about it? Satan is not just some creature who decided to rebel against God. He wasn't there in the beginning. I believe he was created for a purpose, and that purpose, I create good, I create evil. His purpose was to work evil in creation. He did that in Genesis 1:2, and he's done so ever since. So let's talk about some of his job titles. Liar, father of lies. We see that in John 8:44. Adversary, Ephesians 4:27, 6:11. Now, adversary is one of the main functions of Satan. He's our adversary today. Adversary means to stand against. You know, we're not fighting a battle. Okay, that's often the lesson that has been taught by traditional religion. He's an enemy in Matthew 13, verse 39. He's a deceiver, a misser, and I say misser because He's said to be the sinner from the beginning in 1 John 3:8. Notice that, from the beginning. From the beginning of when? I don't think it's from the beginning of Genesis 1:1. I think it was just before Genesis 1:2. Now, he's not a sinner as in missing the mark, because I think he hit his mark perfectly. God gave him a job, and this is what he's done. He's disrupting. He's the disruptor. He's a tempter. He's the accuser, the chief of this world, the evil one, the God of this eon. He's the messenger of light. Oh, you didn't know that, did you? Well, we're told this, that he's a messenger of light. Even his ministers also appears as, or his, oh, man, I forgot the whole verse now. He's the chief of the jurisdiction of the air in Ephesians 2:2. In Peter, we hear that he's a roaring lion. In the unveiling, he's identified as the dragon. Now, these are only some of the occurrences of these names or titles that are given to Satan. So Satan intervened in the Garden of Eden, which resulted in the fall of Adam and Eve. And let's look at some of the examples of what happened since then. In Genesis 6, verses 2 through 4, we know that story about how the sons of God came down unto the daughters of men. They saw that they were beautiful, and they had offspring that resulted from this. In Job 1 and 2, I love this example because Satan approaches God at the gathering of the sons of God. And God says to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? He's a great guy. He's a man of God. He's honorable. Well, Satan then takes the bait. He says, well, yeah, you're protecting him, but I'll bet if you were to remove that protection, he'd curse you. So God says, well, gee, okay, well, I'll tell you what, you can do whatever you want to him, just don't hurt him personally. This is Job chapter 1. Well, what happens? He loses his family, his possessions. He loses everything. Isn't that interesting? Satan is given a challenge, and he has this ability to affect the circumstances of Job's life to a great extent. His whole family, except his wife, is destroyed. In chapter 2 of Job, Satan again approaches God, and God says again, hey, have you considered my servant Job after what you just did? Is God upset? Don't you think it's strange that Satan would do this to God's servant Job, this great man of God, and not be upset by this? There's no indication that he got upset. Hey, Satan, you had a shot. What do you think now? That's the way I interpret it. This is Andre's liberal translation. And Satan says, yeah, well, if you, great. But if you really let me hurt him, I bet you he'll curse you. So God says, well, okay, I'll rise to the occasion, but don't kill him. And then the whole rest of this book of Job is about this terrible suffering he endured. He had boils. He got sick. It was a terrible suffering he endured. My point in all this is Satan has the ability to affect the lives of people, both in circumstances and physically, their personal health. He's a created being of God. He's not a messenger. He's a created being of God for the purpose of wreaking disruption throughout all of our lives. Now, I don't say our, certainly he has that function because, as we'll see later on, he is an angel of light. And his main sphere of operation, as Bullinger pointed out, not that he doesn't affect it in other ways, is to affect the minds of people in the way they see things in the religious realm. That's his main sphere of operation. But he's called the God of this world by Paul. Now let's take a look at Abraham and Lot. You know the story of Abraham and Lot. Okay? Men appear to Abraham, and they have a conversation with him. Abraham entertains him. He gives him a meal. He has his wife cook and kill and cook the fatted cow. These are special men, and Abraham knew that. Now they're not angels in the sense that the world sees angels, the wings, flying around out there. No, they appear as men. Okay, if an angel appeared in our midst and has the ability, and I believe they do, to appear not as such a grandiose being, they look like men, and that's what they did with Abraham. Okay, so they gave him instructions about what to do, and he went to his brother Lot and all this stuff. It just amazes me that these interactions have been going on throughout all of human history, and nobody really gathers what these aliens are doing. Jacob saw a ladder, and there were, King James calls them angels, but they're messengers, descending and ascending into and out of heaven. Angels going back and forth, messengers going back and forth. There are passages in the Bible where God gave instructions to his messengers to appear as lying spirits in the mouth of the people that God was dealing with. Lying spirits. God is lying? He's telling someone else to lie? Isn't that a sin? You all know the story of Balaam's ass? Balaam's riding along. He's supposed to be doing a particular job that God sent him to do. And he didn't want to go that way. He didn't want to go. He's riding along, and he wants his ass to take him in one direction, and his ass refuses to go. Now, certainly, you could say Balaam's ass knew more than he did. Take that whatever you want. And finally, he's beaten his ass. His donkey, okay, just for those who don't know. And all of a sudden, his ass turns to him and says, "What are you beating on me for?" And Balaam's upset with him. "I want you to go this way, and you're going this way." Well, God had opened the eyes of this ass and shown him what was waiting for him if he went that way. Finally, he opened Balaam's eyes. And before Balaam, there were 10,000 of his messengers waiting to slay him if he didn't do what God had told him to do. Fascinating. His eyes were open to these aliens. Now, you brought up Daniel and Gabriel, the 3-week intervening period there where he wasn't getting an answer to his prayer. He was praying for Israel. He had a vision of 77s, the 490 years, where Israel was going to come into their kingdom. But he was curious. He was worried about this, didn't know what to make of it. Gabriel finally appears. "Hey, sorry, I couldn't get to you in time. Delayed response. I'm frightened the Prince of Persia." Okay. In fact, I had to get Michael, the chief messenger, to come down and take my place while I come and answer your prayer. Okay. Daniel's dealing with aliens here. These aliens have a power that most people don't realize. The Prince of Persia is Mark brought out. These are powers, celestial beings who have the ability to influence the events and outcomes of human history. Okay, and it's not just the Prince of Persia. That's there as an example. Do you think that there isn't any other prince that's being affected? President, governor, senator, world rulers of all kinds that aren't being influenced by these spirits? No, that's their job. Satan has a whole cadre of minions following him that they're doing his bidding. Paul talks about that Satan has power to appear as an angel of light. I know I'm getting repetitive. but his ministers also. And what's the whole purpose? To blind the minds of those who believe not, lest the gospel, they should hear the gospel and they should believe. God's blinding. He's using Satan in his job function as a blinder. And he's keeping certain people, I would say the vast majority of the people in the world, from believing these truths that we're talking about. And we'll get into this a little bit more in the final session. But there are good celestial beings, and there are evil, if you will, celestial beings, all doing the bidding of God. It's important to note that none of this is just happenstance. Out of God, as Mark talked about, out of God. Everything is out of him. When we talk about the completeness of God, the complement of God, if all is out of him, then of course something's missing from God. He's operating all things. Everything's being operated through him. So everything will eventually come back to him and he will be fulfilled. All of this is happening for a purpose. So at the conclusion of Paul's consummate revelation for man's day, he reveals his final instructions, and that's at Ephesians 6, 11, and 12, and I feel it's important to repeat it again. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, this is the King James Version, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. We are battling aliens, not battling, I shouldn't say battling, wrestling. That's the word used by both the King James and Concordance. It's not a battle. We are really defending. We're taking a stand. There's a story in the Old Testament, and a couple of people were mentioned in this. I believe it was 2 Samuel. There was a couple of men who were standing, and they had a sword in their hand, and they were defending their little patch. And one of them fought so hard, using that sword, defending himself. The sword, he couldn't drop his sword. He'd held on to it for so long and so hard. This is a story of what we're doing today. We're standing. Paul says, having done all to stand. We've seen that these aliens have immense power to affect human lives. Now, I will tell you, when you look at these shows like Star Trek and Star Wars and all the host of others out there, they've always got these weird looking aliens, right? Every shape, every size, every color. Some have more than 2 arms. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to tell you that I think that's a fantasy. Okay. Now, in the realm of what Satan is doing today, and I'll tell you, Stephen Hill's book, The Celestial Realm, this is one outstanding book, and he talks about these little teachings. This little teachings came about as a result of our conversation with James Burson, and he opened our eyes. Man, he opened a floodgate, and Stephen did a tremendous job of investigating this. What they are, it's not being possessed by demons, okay? It's being influenced by these false teachings that Satan is propagating around the world that blinds people and keeps them from knowing the truth. And that's okay. That's where God has them. And he'd use that against us if he could. This is where this whole panoply, the armor of God, comes into play. Some people have said, and I talked to Clyde about this, and he really helped me understand this. Think that sword is offensive. You're going out there, you're battling, and you're jabbing, and you're slicing, and you're cutting heads off, and maiming and injuring. No, that's not what's going on. This is defensive armor to protect against those little teachings that would distract us from the truth, that would lead us into a way of thinking that's different from what the scriptures have us doing or would have us to believe. The truth, okay, what is truth? The truth is what God is doing, and especially today. All of these news items that we see out there in the world, all the wars, there's all sorts of catastrophes going on. It's just an indication of the activity of these celestial beings. If they have the power to influence princes, presidents, and kings, do you think that you're immune from that, or anybody else is immune? Now, I'm not saying that we should be scared. That sword, he says, take unto you the sword, which is the Spirit. Now, the Word of God is likened to a sword. How do you battle, or how do you defend yourself against these little teachings? The familiarity with that weapon, that Word of God. You're wielding that weapon, not to hurt somebody, but to protect yourself from all these little teachings that are out there to distract you, to take you away from the truth. This is why what we do, I believe, is so important. We're not here to promote ourselves. We're not here to demand adherence to a particular doctrine. Our function is to promote the truth that we understand from the Word. Okay, we don't all agree about some of these things, and that's fine. And you'll hear that reiterated several times this weekend. Paul, our apostle today, informs us that the effect of these aliens is mainly in the realm of religion. We've been given by Paul a revelation as to their influence in this world. Every institution of mankind, every institution, government, politics, finance, education, but especially religion, is a human endeavor. Remember that. It's so easy to get distracted by this world and the events going on in it. And all the things we have to deal with we live in a county or a state, and somebody passes along, you think, what the hell were they thinking when they did that? They're under the influence of some spirit that's causing them to do these things. Why? To create this disruption in our lives and keep us from understanding these things. So I hope this isn't disappointing to tell you that these aliens, I do believe in aliens, but not the kind necessarily that the humanity is making them out to be in this world. I will quote somebody here, somebody well-known, good writer. That's me. I had to get a little bit of self-promotion in there. And this is out of BSN 1113. It was a back quote on the back page. All of the news items that we see in here are all indications of the lunar teachings and their effect on people. It's an indication of those celestial beings that influence those who are involved in the world. Involved in the world. Paul's writing of the weapons of our warfare in Ephesians 4 is ever more important today. Our battle is not with humans of and in this world. It's not. But with those celestial beings who seek to distract us from our God-given purpose. If you find yourself in a debate, arguing about something with some other person, you're in the wrong place, brother, sister. This is not where we are. I'll tell you where we are. We're living right here. Okay? The administration of the mystery. That's where we are. This was the secret, and I'll talk more about that in the next lesson. This is our sphere. Third sphere, centered in the exalted Christ. This is where our concern is, in the celestials. We're being trained today, folks. We're being trained for a job to be done up in the celestials one day.
It's a big place.
It's a big place. Lots of aliens out there, let me tell you. Lots. I don't know that anybody has ever talked about this, and I can't say I know for sure. How many messengers do you think are out there? And messengers are only part of the celestial beings. I mean,
Territory.
Trillions.
you're probably right. I mean, they got to be somewhere. Look at all those planets out there, you know. So I will. This is dovetailing into the next lesson. Let's not let ourselves be deceived. Defend yourselves. Take that sword. Take that word of God. Learn it. You don't have to be an expert, but learn the things that we're putting out here to better defend yourself against the little teachings of Satan and his minions. Okay, a little shorter time I thought it would take.